Yeah, we do. Good afternoon. Thanks so much for being here. My name is Peter Mayer. I'm the chair of the Marina Parks and Forestry Commission. We have a relatively tight schedule today. Thank you all for being here. To assist everybody in attending, please note the function of the Marina Parks and Forestry Commission. We're a citizen advisory body which makes recommendations to the Public Works Committee, composed of 5 alders, meeting at 5 o'clock today, as well as to City Common Council. The purpose of the review is to determine whether to recommend that city officials enter into a contract for architectural design, engineering, and construction administration services with Edgewater Resources regarding Harbor Center Marina and associated facilities. In other words, the issue before us is limited to the selection of the firm to do design, engineering, and administration. In my opinion, 3 important areas in this determination are quality and experience of the firm in marina design. Second, priority of continued community involvement. Third, past experience of the firm in projects and obtaining funding outside of local tax dollars. Additional areas of concern are outlined in the proposal, which was included in the documents along with the agenda on the city website. We've already heard I've already heard, and others have already heard, many public comments about various design elements from the Smith Group master plan. Please understand that the proposal submitted references relates to only those design elements with dollar amounts on pages 86 and 87 in the 6-column RFP Phase 1 of the proposal. It does not include some of the other master plan elements, including things like floating dock, ice ribbon, and floating buildings, ice ribbon, and some of the other things. So those are not relevant. While you'll have an opportunity for 3 minutes of public comment, and you certainly can address that, I'm just suggesting that we focus on what's relevant before us right now, which is the selection of the firm to do design and architectural and administration of the improvements. Although I'm chair of Marina Parks and Forestry, these comments are mine and mine alone. Okay, let's start out with the call to order. And Rachel, I believe we've got a quorum and a pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Public input. 3 minutes, and we're going to watch that time really closely. Come up to the microphone, state your name and address, and then provide your comments, please.
I'll start. My name is Kevin Fan, 610 Grove Drive in Sheboygan. I've owned the property for 25 years, so as a property owner who overlooks the lakefront and the marina, and goes to the lakefront 20 minutes after everything else every day, attended all of the Smith Associations, hearings and so forth, and meetings and so forth. At the very beginning, the most relevant survey I have was that over 60%, almost 2/3 of the people responding, said that they most appreciated most about their lakefront was open space, the use of the lake, the ability to go out and have a picnic with their family, walk their dog in the morning to get exercise when they're going to get it out of the walk. That was it. So one of the most important things I think we need to appreciate, and Smith Associates did not, was keeping open space, keeping open views, and doing something that is not only going to be helpful to the people who use the marina, but also to the city at large, and most importantly, the people who live there.
Sir, can you hold on for just a moment? He has to switch your microphone on just to make sure everybody can hear you. Yeah, he's controlling it.
He's got it there.
Got it? Okay, thank you. Yeah. Go ahead.
All right. So again, most of the people certainly in the neighborhood haven't seen what is even being proposed to be designed at this point. And I believe what we're going to end up being is probably 3 buildings we don't need, we don't want, and are very expensive, and don't do anything to remedy the problems that exist with respect to the marina. So I'm urging everybody just basically to say no, take a breath. I've spent most of my career in the development and hospitality industry, developing things all over the country. Usually when I start building a hotel or something, I'm required to notify the neighborhood what's going to go up, and we have a hearing as about what's going to go up. It's amazing to me that government never does that. Private developers are required to do, but not government. So that's what I'd urge you to do at this point. Take a pause, take a breath, let everybody in the community take a hard look at the details of what's being proposed, and then get back together again, and then reconvene yourselves and make some decisions.
Thank you for your comment.
Hi, I'm Lisa Salgado on 4th Street. Before the city commits to spending $3.3 million on engineers and consultants for the marina, we deserve one basic answer. Will this marina actually pay for itself, or will taxpayers again be left holding the bill? Right now, there is no independent economic financial feasibility assessment proving that the marina will be financially self-sufficient, and there's proven long-term market demand for slips, transient boating, and floating amenity buildings, which I'm glad to hear are out. We should not be spending millions without clear data-driven evidence that this project can stand on its own financially and operationally. Do not approve another dollar for engineering or design until an independent fiscal assessment is completed and shared publicly. Thank you.
My name is Eric Cotty, and I live at 134 Lake Court in Sheboygan. I was born in Sheboygan and lived here until I was about 20 to go to college. I spent the next nearly 30 years living elsewhere, returning periodically to visit family and friends. 4 years ago, I moved back. I moved back for 3 reasons: to be closer to my mom, to be closer to my friends, and to be closer to Lake Michigan, a lake that helped raise me. That's right, the lake taught me many lessons and helped shape who I am as a person today. The facilities and amenities at Harbor Center Marina were a big draw for me as well. After 2 years of enjoying the facilities, everything changed. When the city took over management of the marina, nearly all of the amenities were eliminated. Not only did it push seasonal boaters away, it pushed transient boaters away as well, those who just needed a slip for a night, or as they continue on their journey, or those who might stay for a week or a weekend. It is true that the docks are deteriorating. The marina does need a refresh. Amenities need to be brought back so that the Harbor Center is once again a preferred stop for boats traveling Lake Michigan. There's a lot of talk about the marina's inability to cover costs. This has been true, and it is possible for a marina to be run in a way where they don't lose money year after year. The reasons for the losses over the fall solely on city officials. Third-party marina operators have managed the marina for the city for the majority of the marina's life. I don't feel the city had great oversight on those operators for those decades. The city should have written those contracts in a way that incentivized the operators to fill more slips and break even or turn a profit. I do support the use of third-party marina operators, and I don't want to see the Harbor Center managed directly by the city for much longer. It is my opinion that Edgewater is the best choice to manage and implement this project. It is also my opinion that Sheboygan needs to always have a nice marina. It's part of what makes this city Sheboygan. I ask that the committee, Marina Parks and Forestry Committee here today, please recommend entering into a contract with Edgewater to move ahead with our marina refresh.
Mike Burnett, 611 North Water Street. And it's like, remember when the city voted on Marina the first time? And the citizens were so excited, they voted it down in a referendum. We built it anyways because it was a non-binding referendum. That was a long time ago. And it's like, costs a lot of money. They pretty much clear-cut the lakefront, changed the whole dynamic for teenagers and stuff, started busting underage drinkers, cleaned it up, drove people from the lakefront for decades. Basically, fast forward, we're doing this. The thing's all silted in, all sand. It has to be rebuilt. I mean, it's going to be basically a beach. Half of it is some of the time, depending on the water on the one edge. You're putting this all in. What you're putting in, I don't know. Where the money's from, I don't know. But more importantly here is it never made money. I don't even think it ever broke even. And I could be way wrong. I haven't paid attention for about 10 years, but about 12 years ago when we were doing the armory, every meeting I would mention the debt for the marina just as a kind of kick in the ass to the administration. What did they do? They started pulling money, millions from other accounts to pay it down just so I couldn't say it anymore. And it's like the marina is never going to make money. Even the guy who was doing the study, and I have him on tape from one of the meetings at Kiwanis, saying this is something that you're never going to make money on. It's just what it is. We have to accept this. And if that's cool and we need it from here, why isn't it a county project? Why isn't it a county project?
Hi, Jared Soto of 1627 Mead Avenue. I have a question for the other persons and for the engineering firms. Is it still like accepting of new ideas to bring to this marina revitalization?
I'm sorry, it's just a public comment. We're not
Okay.
able to have dialogue.
All right, no problem. I guess to further that comment, as a young person, if we're going to redo the marina, let's redo the marina. I would like to see some really cool stuff being brought here and different advancements and new technologies. Thank you.
Any other public comments?
Leslie Kohler, 2311 County Y. I don't think any of us can deny that there have been many, many years of mismanagement of the marina. But I do think that there has been good study done about how the economic benefits to the community of having a marina. There are also many boaters in the community that if we're not managing the marina, where are we going to get our fuel? Where are we going to? There's a lot of pieces that are involved in this, okay? This year, the marina has actually managed to make a profit, okay? As I say, there's been years of mismanagement. So the benefits it brings to community, the way our face looks to visitors, and it's an important piece. And there are a lot of boaters that need a place for their boats. And they need the summer storage, they need the winter storage, and this is an important project. So.
Other public comments? A lot of shy people. Okay, I thought more were going to come up. Appreciate you coming out one more time. I'm just going to call it one more time. Any other public comments? Okay, seeing no other public comments then, let's move ahead on the agenda. I'm going to close the public input session. And the next item on the agenda is approval of minutes.
So moved.
We have a motion And a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up, item for discussion, Edgewater Proposal Overview, Marina Project. Mike, if you can introduce yourself and take it from there.
All right. Okay, thank you, and thanks for having me here tonight. My name is Mike Morphy. I'm a principal and senior engineer at Edgewater Resources. Help put together the proposal and help respond to the request for proposals that the city issued this summer. It's very helpful to hear some of the comments here tonight, and we look forward to hearing what the community has to say about the current plan, the waterfront master plan, and figuring out how to make this waterfront the best that it can be and to respond to the needs of the community. I'm here to go through some introduction as far as who we are, who our design team is, and then how we intend to implement the waterfront master plan and how to revisit it and to make sure that we're on solid ground as far as what the community wants and needs. So first, a little introduction about myself and the team, Edgewater. The folks that you see on the screen are those that are going to be working on the project. And while I don't need to go through each one of them, we have coastal engineers, architects, planners. Greg Whitecamp, our president, couldn't be here tonight. He's traveling for a Marina conference. But he led the market study that was done, I think, this summer and the spring to evaluate the market feasibility here in Sheboygan for the Marina. We also have on our team some sub-consultants, Maffett Loftus, who's helping to rewrite the NEC code for marinas right now. We have also Collins Engineers, who's going to help with the survey and the site design. And then we have Ramble Group with us to help on the environmental side as far as looking into the existing buildings and the fuel system and that type of thing. So that's a brief overview of our team. A little bit about Edgewater. We specialize in coastal and waterfront work. We've worked on over 400 marinas worldwide. Here you can see just a sampling of some of those projects shown on the map. But we really our main focus is the Great Lakes, and we've done a lot of work in the Great Lakes. The green circles are marina feasibility studies that we've done in the Great Lakes, primarily in Lake Michigan, Lake Huron, and then we've done a few in the other Great Lakes. Then you see the built marinas are the yellow circles on the screen. Each of these has different reasons, different information that informs the design. Could be anything from coastal, wave, the market, a lot of specific needs that we got to look into with every single project. The red circles are ones that we've built or are bidding in 2025. So there's a whole lot of work coming out right now, a couple that are recently completed. We're wrapping up a few marinas in the state of Wisconsin and Lake Michigan right now. And then in the past 2 years, well, since 2023, over 90 million in marina construction projects. And in the past 15 years, over 50 million in grant funding. And we really think there's a lot of opportunity for grant funding for this project to help make the city's dollar go the furthest. A couple of the projects that we worked on, this was actually one of my first marina projects, it was back in 2010. 31st Street Harbor in Chicago is 1,000 slips. Those of you that are boaters probably have seen it before. Huge breakwater in a large marina basin on Lake Michigan. Here's a couple more pictures. Interesting to this project, there was a fair amount of upland work on the waterfront as well. That's a public park that you see, and beneath that park is actually a parking garage / winter storage facility for boats. This is a LEED certified project. It utilizes geothermal and a lot of other features that help maximize or minimize its impact to the environment. There's another image of one of the parks on 31st Street. And this was finished in, I think, 2012 or 2013. I've had to walk the docks many times. It's something like 6 miles to walk all of them. This is Rochester Marina, Port of Rochester, and Rochester, New York. In the background, that's the Genesee River going out into Lake Ontario. This was about a $20 million project. This was a foundry site turned into a fast ferry that actually had a ferry that went from Rochester to Toronto and back. When that didn't work, the city needed to figure out a way to utilize the city's property and encourage development. That was building a marina here. So we dug a big hole, took out a lot of bad materials, and created a marina there. There's a picture at night. A couple other photos. And a lot of these projects are very similar to the waterfront master plan here in Sheboygan in that they had to be approached in different phases, different construction contracts, and looking at how to maximize the public dollar. This is the city of South Haven in South Haven, Michigan. It's a marina campus. We basically did a master plan and we built one building at a time as the museum was able to fund those projects. And now we're near close to done with one pad left to complete. Couple of pictures of that site. And I know we're somewhat limited on time, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these. Okay, let's dig into Sheboygan. What you see on the screen is the waterfront master plan that this community helped create in 2024. And this was the basis for the request for proposals. And so this is our starting point. We know there was a lot of work put into this, a lot of community input, and actually an initial phase that was identified in that document. And that's what our proposal was intended to respond to, as were the other proposals received, I believe. And so that's our starting point. And really the first few months of this project, our goal is going to be collect the information, collect the survey data, the bathy data, the geotech, and come back to the community and make sure that we've optimized this plan. This is a big picture view of what the city wants and needs. And we're going to take a look at that a little bit closer at each component and figure out what makes the most sense to build when. So a little bit hard to see here up on that screen, but basically the phase one that was identified in the RFP includes these pieces. And I think there was discussion of this earlier. When you put all those pieces together, it's around $26, $27 million according to the plan. Demolition of a couple of the buildings, demolition of the fuel system, some of the hardscape, parking lot sidewalks, and some of the ancillary structures like dumpster enclosures, things like that that are blocking views. Then to come in and look at a new marina administration building and fuel services building. Also, what could a long-term restaurant event building look like? I think that was part of the waterfront plan. Look at a new fuel system. I understand that's in need of an update. Site utilities. So anything we build moving forward is going to need to be fed with potable water. It's going to need to have an appropriate storm system for runoff. We're going to need the right kind of electric to serve these new docks and buildings. Parking lots and driveways and making that safer, looking at it from a traffic perspective, looking at it from a pedestrian perspective, enhancing the public's access to the waterfront. And then a new docking system. We understand there's major issues that are caused by waves and primarily ice over the years. That's been a headache for the city. That'll be a big focus of our upfront first couple of months. And then looking at how do we deal with the sedimentation that was mentioned earlier, and how do we deal with that long term and try to make that something that's a little bit easier to maintain or a way to not have it anymore. Basically designing different things to try to collect that sediment. We know that a wave attenuation system was part of the waterfront master plan in terms of a floating wave attenuator. We think that that's one option. There's probably some other options that would have a greater impact on the way that ice impacts those floating docks within the marina. And then the latest thing we've talked about is evaluating provisions for a Great Lakes cruise dock. So if Great Lakes cruise ships wanted to come to Sheboygan so that others can experience the opportunities here, looking at how that could be incorporated. So that's the initial phase as we understand it right now. And that's all stuff that we intend to revisit with the community to make sure that we're going the right direction. So the guiding principles that we talked about during our interview here were expanding access to the waterfront for everybody to make sure that everyone has access to the waterfront here. It is a beautiful waterfront, Lake Michigan, and making sure that it isn't closed off to certain people. Obviously, we need to address the ice and the waves. Those are causing damage. and the sedimentation to make the marina more maintainable, more durable. And then we certainly want to respect the time and effort that was put into the waterfront master plan, but we think that with the benefit of the recently completed market analysis, with the wave and ice work that we're going to be doing here, and potentially funding opportunities like grants, we want to optimize that and make sure that we're on solid ground and build off of that effort to potentially refine different pieces of it. And then we want to make sure that it's financially feasible and self-sufficient. I know it's a big thing that's been mentioned here. It is, obviously a seasonal type of amenity here in the city, and we want to make sure that we can optimize that and get the most out of it for the city. As far as the timeline, so what does all that look like? Task one is really the first step. We meet with the city, we evaluate what are the priorities, confirm the goals, who are going to be the steering committee, establish a schedule, and all those types of things. That's really the first couple of weeks. As soon as we're under contract, we're going to be here to do that. Then we get into inventory existing conditions. This is where we figure out, okay, where do you have water mains? Where do you have fire hydrants? How do we connect into those? How do we make sure that things are in good shape for the next 50 to 100 years down the road? Hopefully we have time in the season to collect some good geotechnical data. If not, some of that could be done in the spring. And then we would kick off our wave and ice study to build on what was done just about 10 years ago to evaluate that. Any missing data, we may need some additional topography, we may need some boundary surveys, things like that. We would fill that in at that time. Then we start getting into some of the design work, which is really this task 3 is a key task. This is where we take everything we know, including the waterfront master plan. We get additional feedback from the community and stakeholders, and we try to refine what that master plan created. That's a big vision, and we want to take the pieces of that are critical and really make sure that they're on point. Again, we're looking at public access to the water, upland promenade and public space, the marina admin building and the fuel building. Those are 2 buildings that are necessary for operating the marina, and then refining that plan. And then the one thing that I think we do probably better than anyone else is that financial analysis. We're going to look at how do we optimize that and make sure that it's paying for itself to the extent that that's feasible in this community. And then we look at grant applications, and that's a ongoing process with grant applications. They have different due dates, different award dates, and we try to hit the ones that can give the best chance for funding. Once we reach that point, we really jump into the design, and we're kind of putting together architecture and uplands into one piece here. These are the 2 buildings that need to be built pretty quickly, the fuel building and the marina admin building, as well as all the connecting sidewalks and park space and parking and all those types of things. Utilities underground as well, which nobody really thinks about, but they're going to be critical to this. And then we get into construction documents for that. That's a longer process, 4 to 6 months. And I have an overview at the end of this to kind of talk about how those tie in year to year. And then we get into the actual marina part of it and designing what that needs to look like. Now, this needs to be prioritized fairly early because once we know what we're going to do to protect from ice and what the new dock layout would look like, that needs to go to permitting. And sometimes permitting can be kind of a unsure process. It could be anywhere from a 4-month, pretty quick, straightforward thing because we're in an existing basin to 12 months or more. And so we got to plan on that. And that, to build this project, we're at minimum going to need an Army Corps permit and a Wisconsin DNR permit. Once we get into that, and we think we're pretty close to getting a permit and having those issued, then we start the final design. And these are preparation of construction documents with detailed design, pipe sizes, materials, dock type, anchorage, all those key things. Then we would work with the city to build out these projects and bid these to contractors. Right now, we envision at a minimum probably 4 different contracts. One for the building demo and remediation if there is any. One for the upland and the site infrastructure work. That's typical civil engineering and landscape architecture. The architecture for the 2 buildings. And then the marina and fuel systems. Looking at that as a single contract, potentially 2 if there's a major coastal component. And then we're here to help through construction admin. That would be regular visits to check contractor progress to make sure things are being built correctly, answer RFIs, and deal with all those types of things, submittal reviews and all that good stuff. And then at the end, we throw a big party. So this is what it looks like schedule-wise. It's a little hard to see, but there's kind of 4 groupings there. The first one at the top is kind of initiating the project, and that's really setting the table, getting all the information, taking a look at the master plan, revisiting it, confirming it, revising where we need to. And the goal there is to be essentially into some key meetings towards the end of this year and the first 2 months of 2026. So we say, look, this is what we refine it to. This is what we're going to build, right? Yep. This is the budget. This is what we're aiming for. The big long bar that you see that goes into 2027, that's grant funding applications. So again, depending on what month it is, different applications are due, and trying to take advantage of those as much as possible. And then we get into some overlapping design between the buildings is the next category, then the site and the marina. And right now we show that the marina would start with some of that preliminary work in those first, let's say, 6 months before we get to a permit application. That's really critical path here, is we've got to get to the design to a point at approximately 30% when those applications can go in. And then you got anywhere from 4 to 12 plus months for permitting. So that's really going to affect the feasibility of building the new marina any sooner than the winter of 27, 28. That's probably what we're looking at for the marina itself. Now, the 2 middle categories in the schedule are the buildings and the site and upland work. As soon as we confirm the plan, over the winter, let's call it, we want to jump right into design development and construction documents and try to have those in a position where we can bid that work out and start the construction as early as the fall of next year. And again, all these schedules are going to take into consideration what are the city's budgets, what funding opportunities are out there, how do we avoid interruptions to the marina during the boating season, and how do we maximize the public space during the time that it's most utilized. So looking at all those things together, this is kind of our first stab at what the schedule looks like. Obviously, when we meet later this fall, we would take another look at this schedule and really try to optimize it. But knowing what we know today, this is our best stab at what we think we're looking at. And there are a key bunch of decision points in there. Really, the first one is finalizing what are the phase 1 priorities. That list I read earlier, let's make sure that those are the pieces that we're aiming to build right now. Let's make sure we confirm those budgets, go through and ensure that we complete a community outreach process, get any additional input in addition to what I heard today. And then we're looking at review periods and permit approvals and all those things. And then the next key thing down the line is going to be long lead time items. Some of the electrical components for marinas have pretty long lead times of 5 to 8 months sometimes. So really getting ahead of that while we're in that term of waiting for permits is going to be key to the project. And I think that is the main stuff I wanted to go through today. But with that, I appreciate the input today. I appreciate the work the community's done on the waterfront plan. And we're really excited to help you guys through this and to make sure that we phase this project and optimize it the way it needs to be. So thanks for your time today.
Mike, if you don't mind just waiting in case there are questions by any of the commissioners. Are there any questions for Mike Murphy?
I have
Go ahead.
questions.
Rebecca?
Thank you so much for coming. Really impressive.
Do you want to put your mic on?
How do I do that?
Just press the button. There we go. He's got you.
Come on.
I know, it's technology.
Am I on? You're on. Let me try that again. One of the things I'm kind of interested in, just from a cost perspective, because I know there's a lot of demolition on here. When you go in and do the site assessments, is it with the mind that we would be able to possibly keep the administration building we have now? Or is this demolition, and also the question about D-Land Park, I think that was on the list for demolition. I'm just wondering, what are the possibilities of keeping these buildings?
So I personally, at this point, don't know enough to say if those buildings are usable long-term. What we're responding to is the RFP noted that they were going to be torn down and replaced. But I think that first, 4 months, 2 to 4 months is where we're making sure that we're on solid ground and understanding the intent there. So one of the first steps is kicking off the surveys, and one of those first surveys is getting Ramble out here to take a look at those buildings just to see how do they look, and if we are to demo them, is there any regulated material in them, meaning like lead or asbestos, that kind of stuff, which we don't suspect, but that'll be one of the first steps. Yep.
Right, so I think the environmental inspections are good, and even if the buildings are savable, any kind of sustainability updates, new windows or something, to kind of just save on cost, I think is
Sure.
really important. How are you feeling about grants? Looking at some of the grant lists, we have some that are state and federal, and that can be a little, what are you seeing on the
So
horizon?
there has been a little bit of stop and go on some of the grants, pause for a second, and it's mainly because of just uncertainty. It isn't that someone's just shut a grant program down that's affected one of our projects, but a little bit of stop and go as far as a little bit of people, agencies being unsure of what's going to happen. So I think the certainty should increase and we should have a better idea. But as far as the actual projects that have been funded being cut off, we really have not experienced a lot of that yet. And I can't cite a single project where we've had that issue. I think there will still be opportunities. There are some federal programs we want to look at. And I know the state of Wisconsin has a number of programs that might work as well.
We'll get you.
It's very impressive to see your 5-phase thing. One thing I didn't see is what is your total cost at the end of the day? Second part is, am I right in you're just doing the marina part, not the whole riverfront and all that? So we've got 2 studies and 2 different competing or different project managers looking at this?
So our scope would be the marina and waterfront in that whole area. The waterfront master plan that was recently completed identified that initial phase. It was the parking lots and the buildings and the park space and the marina along the marina area within New Center Marina. So that's the focus of our project. I'm not sure if that answers. Maybe there's a separate study upland or upriver that's going on that I'm not.
And Mike, I'm just going to jump in and maybe provide a little clarification if I can. So I know there have been a lot of public comments on this as well, or questions about it. So Smith Group did a very detailed community engagement survey to come up with some very preliminary concept plans. From that concept plan or so-called master plan, select elements were pulled out for your RFP.
Okay.
That doesn't address Terry's question specifically, but it does to some extent in that it's only those elements that were included in your request for proposal that you're addressing and that this contract relates to. For example, there's no ice ribbon that you're working on this. There's no element relating to an ice ribbon included in your proposal. Your proposal has no floating docks.
Well,
There's a possible pad for building, but it's just the pad, not. I said floating docks. I'm sorry. Floating bathrooms is not in your proposal. You're not doing anything related to putting plumbing and electrical systems relating to amenity facilities out on the lake, right where those e-docks got destroyed by ice, right?
Correct. Yep, that is correct. And thanks for clarifying that for me. The other part of your question was total cost. So
Just of your side.
On just our fee. So our team's fee, I think, was 3.2 something million. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head. That was what was referenced earlier. And that corresponds to the estimated construction cost from the waterfront master plan that was 26.8 million. was the construction cost for that.
Does that answer your question?
Sure.
Okay. Go ahead.
So mine's around the financial feasibility analysis, which you mentioned as one of the points that you'd be looking into. So what I'm trying to understand is what that would look like. Would that be whether the marina can cover its costs with enough revenue coming in to offset annual expenses? Is it that the marina would earn enough over time to put into a fund to eventually replace these new constructions when they reach the end of their useful life? What does financial feasibility or sustainability mean in this context?
Sure, and it's all those things. It's looking at, okay, if there's a bill for $27 million to build all this infrastructure, some of it is public and non-generating, doesn't generate any revenue. Some of it some of it is docks that generate revenue, and looking at what does that look like on your, if it's a bond payment or if it's the remainder of, the project minus grant funds. It's looking at all those bits and pieces, and then what's the replacement in 20 to 30 years of some of the infrastructure, and how does that get paid for? So it's all those things together. And that's something that Greg Wykamp, my partner, is an expert at looking at as far as marinas. In a public community, I think when you look at marinas as a business, it's not really a good indication of what they mean to the community as far as revenue. So what I mean by that is, what would you do if you didn't have a marina? There's a cost to take that marina out, and then what are you left with? A park that has to be maintained with zero revenue. And so when you think about it that way, and the revenue that a marina brings directly to the city and indirectly through the creation of tourism and job creation, then it starts to make a lot more sense. And those are the things that Greg is much more of an expert at than myself as an engineer.
So in that analysis, is there then an option shown where it would estimate the costs of removal? So we could see side by side, if this was removed, there's no ongoing revenue, but there's also no ongoing expense versus, or whatever the remaining ongoing expense would be versus the ongoing revenue expense of a new construction.
We can certainly pull that up and get back to you. I'd have to touch base with Greg because he led that part of the study.
All right, that's all I have for right now.
Yep. Come on up, Don. Yep. Don, why don't you come on over on this side so that everybody, Don is on our commission and he was just sitting on the wrong side of the table here.
How does your firm prevent from getting overbooked? And internally, do you have a policy of which parts of a project you will never sub out to anybody else when push comes to shove?
We don't have a policy like that that's black and white, like we'll never sub this part out. What we look at is what's going to get the best result, and we really are coastal and marinas. That is our focus, and that's a big reason why we got in touch with Ramble. Maffitt Loftus.
What's your backlog? How many? This is a big project, but I'm not in your business.
Sure.
I don't know how this equates to other projects you book. How do you prevent from getting overbooked and being able to perform and then having control on your experts who are working on our project?
I mean, you have to look at it as opportunities come up, and you got to say, can we handle this? How does this look? We just wrapped up a handful of large marina projects, just wrapping up in 2025. This is perfect timing for us next year. I just spoke with our head architect, Michelle, and she's really hoping to get moving on this winter.
Your earlier number, you had a number of 90 million in 2023.
Yeah.
Was that your booking or is that the value of the projects?
That's the value of projects, construction costs.
Construction. So our project on the bottom line came to 41 on the phase one?
Yeah, construction costs, it was like 27.
27, okay. So our 27 would relate to that 90.
Correct, yep.
So that's a third of your, this is a big project for you.
It's absolutely a big project. We've done projects of this size before, and it's also spread out between now and probably the spring of 28.
Yeah.
So there will be little sprints along the way at various points in time. One right off the bat, because we need to get to the point where permits are going in. And then there will be ones down the line to get to bid documents, for sure.
Okay, we do have a hard stop at 4:30. We're at 4:15. Any other questions from?
Yeah. I was just getting back to that economic study. You will look at the total overall, I mean, hotels, restaurants, things like that, the impact, the economic impact of that also along with this, I'm hoping.
I really think that the community needs that. And so I'll talk with Greg. I don't know if he already has.
Okay.
But really, you can't consider the financial viability of the marina itself without looking at those types of things.
Okay.
Secondary impacts and all that.
Because I think the secondary impact is probably crucial to this at all. I think what it brings to the community beyond what it, the marina itself brings, or the amount of inventory that it brings in. Also, one other question I had was, as part of this, I mean, I know that there have been some concerns about the original design of the original marina and the problems that we've had over the years with that, would there possibly be any kind of different design or some changes to the outer shell that protects it? Do you think there would there possibly be some modifications to that?
There could be. I am familiar with, to some extent, study that was done in 2016. Members of Edgewater's team were then at another firm and led the study of the ice impacts to the marina. And in 2016, there were several alternatives that were identified. And though some of those would involve modifications to the entry, some of them would involve interior breakwaters, but there's a whole bunch of different options there that we want to revisit.
Okay, thank you.
Last thing we want to do is build something that ends up being impacted by ice again, and then you're right back at square one.
Okay, appreciate that.
Okay. Last call, any commissioners?
So I'll come back to the financial piece just one last time, just to kind of outline what I feel like a good output would be for the community to make decisions based on. So we have the Marina Master Plan that we've gone through, and as Dean kind of alluded to, there are sections of that I think we would like to take another look at and see if we could change. I'm just trying to understand, as you go through into this analysis, if it'd be possible to have an output where it's, economically, the economic impact specifically, type A, based on the Marina Master Plan, what we believe that would be. B, if it were just to be more of a repair of what we currently have and keeping much of that the same. And then the third option being, if we were to say we were to remove the marina, what that would look like, just so we have the information we need as a community to make that sort of decision. Is that something that's a reasonable ask, or is that outside of the scope of your work?
It's not specifically in this scope, but I'm confident that we can do that. Depends on the level of detail, but we've done it at many other places. So I don't have any problem looking at that, and we can certainly do it.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Okay, our job as commissioners, we can have discussion, but the outcome of that, again, should be a motion of recommendation to the Public Works Committee. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, we need to put out some kind of a resolution to move this forward. I'm not sure if I'm going to vote for it or not to begin with, but to get it on the floor, I will make the motion to do it. I've got some concerns over, I was here 25 years ago, whatever, the first marina, and I saw studies like this saying we'd have phase 1 by such and such, phase 2, we'd have 500 boats by phase 2, and the marina within a few years would be paying for itself, and we would not go to the taxpayers for anything. None of that became true. We have paid millions of dollars every year, hundreds of thousands, if not millions, over the years on the proposals that we saw. It's a great proposal. I've been at the marina for over 10 years. I used the fuel dock, so I know how important the fuel dock and some of that stuff is. but I'm not sure that we need a full marina overhaul, or we just need to repair the docks first of all, and keep things going. I'm a little skeptical on, I have an old impact study from, I think, this group a year or so ago.
Probably was generated this calendar year.
And in there, again, the numbers look great, but it's based on within 3 to 5 years having 95% full marina. I can't even remember the last time we had 70% at the marina, much less 95% marina. I hope it's true. I hope it would work out so that the taxpayers aren't going to have to pay this. But again, being on 20-some years ago and seeing the same pitch for two-size marinas, I'm skeptical. But having said that, we need a motion to move on. I would move to recommend that.
Discussion point first?
Sure, go ahead.
Just before we have a vote, am I doing this right? Am I on?
Turn red.
Okay, first of all, and I'll be as brief as I can, but this does feel fairly rushed. I mean, having a hard stop time is.
Well, nobody's going to kick us out, but we're being
You know what I
respectful
mean,
to
though.
another committee.
You know what I mean? And even that, I appreciate you, Mr. Chair, getting this before the Marina Parks and Forestry Board for some kind of input. I would ask the city keep the Marina Parks and Forestry Board. It's very involved. There's a lot of information and some of it I didn't have. And that being said too, just looking at the cost, I am worried about the cost of this. I want us to have a marina that is safe and appealing and functional. So something has to get done. I hope it will be done with consideration to preserving as much as we have right now instead of demolishing and starting over. It just needs to be safe. We've got to do something about the ice. And I don't think a restaurant is the right idea at this point. I think if the city wants to focus on helping restaurants, maybe we should look at the riverfront and some other places. So that will be part of my motion. Take it away.
Don's going to make a comment
Okay, good.
as part of discussion.
There we go. The question before us is this the company that we should recommend to move forward, correct? We're not re-litigating whether we need a marina, whether we need all that. If someone else has decided that of their group, but if it's going to proceed, is this the company to go with? Is that correct?
There was an RFP, right?
There is a process that, under the request for proposal, identified various contracting firms, and Edgewater Resources rose to the top of all of the firms that had submitted a proposal. In fact, it's my understanding that out of the 10 people who participated in the ranking of the RFP, all 10 had indicated Edgewater Resources based upon their experience, their knowledge, their ability to get grants, and their good working relationship with the community was the best of the.
Okay. Well, thanks for the clarification, because I read through 108 pages of it, and I'm impressed with the company. I think they have a wealth of experience in terms of the cost estimates. That experience is really good information for us and other people involved in this process to make decisions, and I think they probably have the background to be able to give us that.
Go ahead.
Me?
No, you ready?
Casey?
Yeah, can you turn my mic on?
Oh, sorry.
All right. Thank you. As far as the selection process, we had a committee of 10 folks that reviewed. We had 4 firms that submitted, and we went through a selection process where they were pre-graded. Of the 4 firms that were selected, we opted to interview the top 3. And from the feedback that we had, it was a unanimous vote to go with Edgewater. It was not a split vote in any way. Everybody felt that they were the best candidate and the best company to address the situation that we have there. I would say the biggest takeaway that we had from Edgewater's presentation that was over and above everyone else in looking at, what is our ongoing issue? Everybody knows what that is. That's the ice and the ice damage that we face year over year with the existing dock system and the existing attenuation that we're using in the marina itself. And Edgewater was the only one that pointed out that we have an ice problem, not a wave problem. And, the approach that every other company that we've worked with, they've taken to this is addressing the waves. And, they kind of figure that, well, that'll fix the ice side of it. And, doing the same thing over and over for a decade plus has resulted in a $6 million deficit in the operations of that facility. So we're confident in a different approach, and the approach that was proposed by Edgewater will help us address that and eliminate those annualized costs. And was kind of said earlier this evening, this is one of the first years that we've actually broke even on the marina. We've heard a lot of different opinions, but Nick's here. It's the highest fuel sales we've ever had. This year, we're trending right on that line right now. So, we're going the right direction. We need to get to a point where the facility itself structurally, we're not putting hundreds of thousands every year into replacing docks. So any other questions on the selection?
And again, I'm just going to make some quick, very, very quick comments because our time is short. As I said, I have looked at the feasibility analysis, which is probably more detailed as a book than the proposal that Edgewater Resources submitted. It did comparison figures for 12 separate marinas, compared them to Sheboygan in a very similar situation, and concluded that not only with the improvements would it be sustainable financially, but it would also be sustainable to the level that, as Mike said, would likely generate reserve funds so that it could continue in perpetuity. Again, I'm pleased that Nick was able to work very hard on the marina operations over these past 2 years, so that this year, and although Casey said it's break even, it's not break even. We made money, and I was told that we couldn't make money at the marina, and we did this year. So I'm very pleased with that. Now that doesn't include substantial capital investment and addressing bond funds and things like that. Obviously, that is included in the feasibility analysis, though. Okay. I will take a motion from somebody, please.
Make the motion. Move to recommend that the City Public Works Committee authorize the appropriate city officials to enter into a contract with Edgewater Resources for architectural design, engineering, and construction administration services regarding the Harbor Center Marina and its associated facilities at 821 Broughton Drive, as outlined in the Edgewater Resources proposal, subject to, number one, continued review and consideration of retaining and repurposing the current Marina Administration Building and D-Land Park for cost savings. And number two, only including the restaurant and event building if private funding, not public, is obtained to address the construction costs of the building.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion?
My mic on?
You have a mic.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Okay, I guess my concern about the adding on the portion about the only if private funding is obtained to address construction of the building, that moves us away from being able to use grant money and getting grants for it. And I think that, the ability to possibly get a grant and use it for that would be, to take that away from us, I think is kind of handling. Not saying that we shouldn't look into those things, not saying we shouldn't look into private funding, but I think that is my concern with that proposal.
Would you accept a friendly amendment to your motion, Rebecca, instead of saying only including, or to give consideration to limiting the restaurant and building for private funding, so that it's not an absolute condition?
No, I want to leave it.
Okay.
There we go. I was wondering if there could make one more amendment to that, just to make sure that it's part of the scope of the work to include in the financial analysis the alternative that the marina is removed, because we have in here called out already continued review and consideration of retaining and repurposing the current building for cost savings, just so we have the full picture of what it would look like if we were to say remove the marina, so we have that full option for the community to make that decision. So my question is going to be more for staff. Is it possible to amend that here? Is it possible to amend that in the next meeting so we don't continue to on and on have this conversation?
So respectfully, I appreciate your motion. My concern would be that the entire community engagement over the course of an entire year with Smith Group in terms of coming up and formulating input really did determine that the community needs a marina. And that's so far away from that idea. Again, respectfully, I couldn't vote in favor of that because it's inconsistent with the community desire.
I would still advocate that it's at least there as an option so we understand what all of those would look like. If we're going to take a look at this as a community again, having the dollars in front of it, I think, is important. So we understand, if it's X millions to do the master plan, now is when we make the decision on actually spending the money to have that option out there, just so we understand it.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman, we got to remember that this committee is only recommending this to Public Works Committee, and we really have no say in what's happening and how the money's being spent or any of the future things going on. Public Works, all of them, all the people on Public Works are elected officials and have to answer to the public on how they're spending the money, where us as commissioners don't have that. I don't know if it's good or bad, but we don't have that option that we have to face the public on our decision. What we're deciding tonight, like you said, is to send this on to somebody else. I agree with the amendment to look at privatizing more or less the restaurant and that kind of stuff. Whether the next committee will do that or not, we will see after 5 o'clock, I guess.
Thank you. Okay. So you were about to make a motion. There was no second to it. So procedurally, I'm going to go ahead and now take a vote. The motion as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Quickly, next meeting is November 4th at the Public Works Building, our normal facility. And I will take a motion to adjourn. A motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Chair votes aye. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Appreciate it. Oh, I do have 4 extra copies of the excerpt for the financial analysis. If somebody wants them, I made a few extra. Let me know. Otherwise, I can get them to you. And I'm sorry to licensing for overstaying, but we'll get out of here quick. Okay. I'll put it back there just so I can get out of it. Okay, I'll make sure it gets to the right person.